I've got a fun upgrade project planned for the Sidekick out in the shop this evening. I recently got back from a 6-day-long 2,000-mile backcountry discovery type trip, and the guys I go four-wheeling with have really embraced the 2-meter VHF communication band on our trips, and I really appreciate that. I've had my technician license for about 10 years, and really communication with the ham radio is far superior to CB in a whole lot of ways. A better clarity of audio, longer range, and less clutter on the air. So anyway, I was really happy to see that those guys have decided to go that route. And on the trip, I used a Yaesu VX7 for my communication with a mag mount antenna. And even with a good radio and an external antenna, over longer distances, the guys in the back of the group weren't able to talk with the guys in the front. So I wanted to help alleviate that a little bit. And so I decided to buy a mobile radio and install it in my Sidekick. So I did a little bit of shopping on Amazon, and I ended up settling on this guy right here. This is the Luiton, I hope I'm saying that right, Luiton LT-925UV. And I had a few considerations. I wanted something that had more power than the handheld, and I traded off a little bit. This is only a 25-watt mobile, but still, that's more than 5 times more power than the handheld had. I wanted to make sure it was programmable with chirp, and the reason for that is I have a whole bunch of chirp programs already written for mobiles and handhelds that I already own, and that make programming this radio a whole bunch easier. I needed to be dual band, which was important to me. I had 2 meter and 70 centimeter, and this radio is. But the very most important consideration was the size, and let me show you why that is. I had a location picked out for this mobile radio from the very beginning, and so I looked at several different ones of different shapes and sizes, and this one fit the bill perfectly. And this is where my ashtray normally goes, and I have no need for an ashtray in here, so and this radio is just, as you can see, it's the perfect size here. Obviously I've got the front in there, but so my intent is to cut out this plastic surround here with the Dremel to the shape of the radio, so I can slide that back in there. And what I'll probably do is set it so that this line on the radio right here is flush with this surface, so it'll be sticking out just a little bit, but it still leave me plenty of room to operate the gear shift right here without interfering with the front of the radio or the mic cable. So that's the plan. I've got a new antenna I'm going to install. This thing right here, it's got an NMO type base on it, and it's got the PL style connector that'll screw right into the back of the radio without any kind of adapter, and there's plenty of room behind the dash to make these connections. So, and then I got a mount right here for the NMO style connector. This is just a generic angle type mount. I'm actually going to have to straighten it out for the Sidekick. That is going to go right here. And it looks like the previous owner had some kind of a mount there, probably for a CB antenna. So I'm going to flatten this thing out and install it right in here. Well, unfortunately, this has taken me an hour or two to sort out here. So it turns out the USB adapter that comes with this radio has one of the cloned Prolific chips in it. So the Prolific driver actually doesn't work with it. It recognizes it as a clone and then it disables it. So I've run into this before. I just had to download an older driver. I found one from 2012 and installed it, and that enabled the USB adapter there. And then I discovered that this radio is not actually natively supported inside of Chirp. So it took a few minutes to figure out what it's a clone of. But once I figured that out, I was able to make it work. So this is actually a clone of a Leixen VV898. And so once I connected to the radio with that, then it worked just fine. There's a few odd things. I really haven't been able to program the radio to do exactly what I want. Really what I like to do is to have the A and the B side set up identical, just A display the name and B display the frequency. That way I can, if I happen to forget the frequency for a particular channel, then I can set both the A and B to the same channel and then read what the frequency is. But I actually haven't been able to figure out how to do that with the radio yet. However, I think I got the program and all the memories pretty well set up in here. I've got my fire department frequencies that I can listen in on, and then I've got FRS and GMRS that I can scan and listen in on, and then I've got some amateur simplex and local repeater frequencies in here that I've got set up to transmit and scan. So we'll go ahead and write to this radio and see what we get. Well, I spent quite a bit of time this evening with the laptop and the programming software trying to get this radio set up exactly the way I wanted it. And really, this has been the most difficult radio programming I've ever done. The menu items between both softwares, Chirp and the software that this came with, they don't do the same things. The same menu item doesn't do the same thing between the two softwares. And it really isn't intuitive. The menu items don't do the same thing to this radio that they do based on my experience programming other radios. However, I think I've got it programmed the way that it's going to be useful for me. On the A side of the radio, I've got the memories programmed in. They just display the text, not the frequency. I've got some of my fire and EMS frequencies programmed in to scan, and then I've got some of my local repeaters, amateur repeaters, and then I've got MERS, FRS, and GMRS frequencies programmed in. And then on the B side, I've got that set up as a VFO only, so I can use the keypad to type in frequencies and use that in VFO mode. And then as far as DTMF tones go, I really, even though I've got my technician license, I don't use my IRLP repeaters all that often. So the only radio that I'm familiar with sending DTMF tones on, you hold down the push to talk button and then key in the DTMF tones. With this radio, it's a little bit different. You actually have to enter a call mode, type in the series of DTMF tones that you want to send, and then hit the push to talk button. And so really it's a little bit less intuitive, but still seems to work. So there you go. That's the install of this radio here in my Sidekick. Really, it's pretty clean. I'm pretty happy with what I was able to do squeezing it in there. Really, it actually saves up quite a bit of space over using a suction cup ram mount for a handheld, which is what I've been doing. So, alright, hope you guys enjoyed watching.